In the mood for organized crime but tired of boring legal businesses? Well, sweetheart, have we got the opportunity for you? Nucky Johnson's Boardwalk Hospitality Package, where corruption meets customer service. Come on down to beautiful Atlantic City, New Jersey. The only vacation destination where the judges are crooked, the cops are paid off, and the whiskey's somehow safer than the government-approved stuff. Illegal liquor, underground casinos, chorus girls, police raids scheduled conveniently after business hours. At Nucky Johnson's Atlantic City, we believe every hardworking American deserves three things: liquor, gambling, and the comforting illusion that laws are optional. Tony Bum Pizza. I came here for a weekend in 1927 and lost my house. Virginia Hill. I married 3 gangsters and 2 politicians, sometimes the same guy. Giacomo A. I got arrested, released, and rearrested all before dinner. Outstanding service. Tired of boring legal entertainment? Well, step onto the boardwalk, sweetheart. Where every hotel comes with ocean views, bootleg whiskey, mild federal surveillance. Side effects include tax evasion, political corruption, gambling addiction, mysterious disappearances, becoming friends with Al Capone. Enjoy a handcrafted cocktail made with only the finest mystery alcohol from Canada, Cuba, or somebody's bathtub in Newark. Results may vary. And remember, when the law becomes inconvenient, Atlantic City becomes profitable. Nucky Johnson's Boardwalk Hospitality Package. The ocean breeze smells like cigars and federal crimes. Offer void if Elliot Ness shows up. Management not responsible for Tommy gun incidents. Missing accountants. Disappearing witnesses. Or sudden IRS attention. Please gamble responsibly. Or don't. We ain't your father. Disclaimer. Before we start, understand something. This documentary is based on real historical events, real criminal organizations, real corruption, and real violence that shaped America during Prohibition. None of these men are heroes. They were brilliant. They were ruthless. And they built empires on vice, blood money, political corruption, and public appetite. But if you want to understand America in the 1920s, you got to understand these guys. Because the truth is, half the country pretended to hate organized crime, while the other half was standing in line waiting for a drink. So in this video, we go back to Atlantic City. Back to the boardwalk. Back to the men who figured out that if you controlled pleasure, you controlled everything.
The Real Boardwalk Empire, a Pizzaverse Studios documentary, a Palermo Productions original, written by Bambi Palermo, narrated by Vincent DiPrio. The night America sold its soul. On the morning of February 14th, 1929, 7 men were lined up against a brick wall in a Chicago garage and shot with Tommy guns by men dressed as police officers. 70 rounds, 6 dead instantly. The 7th, Frank Gusenberg, crawled across the floor with 14 bullets in him. When the real police arrived and asked who did this, he looked up and said, "Nobody shot me." Then he died. The most notorious gangland massacre in American history. Unsolved. Officially, everyone knew it was Al Capone. The newspapers knew. The police knew. The President of the United States knew. And Capone? He was in Florida, sitting beside a swimming pool like a king untouchable by the law. But here's what they don't teach you. 3 months after that massacre, the most powerful criminals in America quietly boarded trains and converged on one city. Not Chicago. Not New York. Atlantic City, where a man named Enoch L. Johnson had guaranteed their safety, silenced every cop in the county, and reserved entire hotel floors on the boardwalk for a 4-day meeting that would shape organized crime in America for the next 50 years. And almost nobody talks about Nucky Johnson. That ends today. Because what you're about to hear is the true story behind Boardwalk Empire. The politicians, the gangsters, the businessmen, the killers, the geniuses, and the monsters who built an empire on a strip of New Jersey sand and convinced an entire country that the law was negotiable. Get comfortable. Every word of this actually happened. This channel was built for exactly this kind of story. The slow kind. The dangerous kind. The kind where you disappear into a story for a few hours while the rest of the world goes on. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Hit the bell. Leave a like. Because documentaries like this take real work, real research, and a whole lot of caffeine, sweetheart. Now, let's go to Atlantic City. The city was born crooked. To understand Nucky Johnson, you have to understand what he inherited. Atlantic City was not corrupted by the machine. Atlantic City was born corrupted. The corruption wasn't accidental. It was structural, architectural. It was baked into the boardwalk planks themselves, driven into the sand nail by nail. The city was founded in 1854 as a resort town for wealthy visitors from Philadelphia and New York City. Then the railroad arrived. And suddenly rich people from the cities could escape the heat, the factories, the smoke, and the misery, and arrive at the shore in just a few hours. Hotels exploded across the coastline. The boardwalk itself was built in 1870. Originally, just a wooden path to stop sand from getting dragged into hotel lobbies. But eventually it became the most famous promenade in America. And from the very beginning, Atlantic City operated on one rule. The customer is always right. The customers wanted booze on Sundays. New Jersey law prohibited it. Atlantic City poured anyway. The customers wanted gambling. Atlantic City dealt the cards. The customers wanted women. And somehow women appeared. Every gambling den owner, every madam, every speakeasy operator, every bookie, every hustler paid tribute to the political organization running the city. And in exchange, the police looked away. The judges lost interest. The prosecutors forgot how laws worked. It wasn't chaos, that's the important part. It was organized. The Commodore. Before Nucky Johnson, there was Louis Quinlan. The Commodore. Big. Charismatic. German-American. A political boss who understood something most politicians still don't understand today. Vice is profitable. Quinlan ran the Atlantic County Republican machine through loyalty, patronage, favors, and fear. Mayors owed him. Sheriffs owed him. Judges owed him. Everybody ate because the machine fed them. And as long as everybody got paid, nobody asked questions. The city sold fantasy. A place where ordinary rules stopped existing. And business boomed because of it. The hotels got richer. The boardwalk got bigger. The crowds got thicker. And corruption became so normalized that people stopped even pretending to be shocked by it. That's the thing about corruption. Once everybody benefits from it, it stops feeling illegal. It starts feeling traditional. Nucky Johnson. Then came Enoch L. Johnson, born in 1883. Tall. Sharp. Photographic memory. The kind of politician who remembered everybody's name, mother, address, drinking habits, and voting history. The man could meet you once and remember you 10 years later. That ain't charisma. That's tactical weaponry. By 25, he was sheriff. By 30, he was positioning himself to inherit the machine. And when the reformers finally brought down Quinlan, Nucky stepped into power so smoothly it barely looked like a transition. Because he'd already been running the place behind the scenes. And unlike the gangsters around him, Nucky Johnson didn't rely heavily on violence. That's one of the biggest differences between the real man and the HBO version. The fictional Nucky Thompson kills people. The real Nucky Johnson? There's no evidence he ever personally murdered anybody. He ruled through systems. Pressure. Leverage. Economics. If you crossed Nucky, maybe nobody touched you physically. But suddenly your business license disappeared. Your inspections failed. Your suppliers stopped answering the phone. Your workers got arrested. You became radioactive. That's power, real power, not loud power, quiet power, the kind that smiles while ruining your life. Prohibition, the greatest business opportunity in American history. Then came 1920. Prohibition. The 18th Amendment. America tried to outlaw alcohol. Which, let me tell you, something might be the funniest mistake the federal government ever made. Because Americans didn't stop drinking. They just started drinking illegally. And overnight, organized crime became one of the most profitable industries in the country. Rum-running ships parked offshore. Canadian whiskey crossed the border. Speakeasies exploded in every major city. New York had over 30,000 illegal bars. 30,000. That ain't underground anymore. That's customer service. And Atlantic City? Atlantic City became paradise because it already had the infrastructure, the hotels, the vice economy, the corrupt political machine, the police protection. Nucky Johnson was perfectly positioned for Prohibition because Atlantic City had basically been rehearsing for it since the 1800s. Arnold Rothstein, the brain. If Nucky Johnson was the king of Atlantic City, Arnold Rothstein was the prime minister of the American underworld. Rothstein wasn't some street thug. He was a strategist. Cold. Elegant. Emotionless. The guy treated organized crime like mathematics. Probability. Risk management. Supply chains. Political investments. He understood something before almost anybody else. Crime wasn't about muscle anymore. Crime was becoming corporate. He allegedly financed the 1919 Black Sox scandal, built national gambling operations, financed bootlegging, mentored the next generation. Lucky Luciano, Lansky, Frank Costello, the future architects of organized crime. Rothstein taught them the blueprint. Keep emotions out of business. Build relationships before you need them. Corrupt institutions quietly. And never attract more attention than necessary. Which is exactly why Rothstein lasted longer than most of the loudmouth killers around him. Until finally, he got cheated in a poker game. Or believed he got cheated. And in 1928, he was shot in the stomach at the Park Central Hotel in Manhattan. The cops asked who did it. Rothstein refused to talk. 2 days later, the brain died. And the empire he built split apart into pieces that Luciano and Lansky would eventually reorganize into something even bigger. Al Capone, the celebrity gangster. Al Capone is the most famous gangster in American history. And maybe the most misunderstood. Because Capone wasn't just violent. He was brilliant. The man built a 60 million criminal empire before turning 30 years old. That's corporate-level money in the 1920s. He controlled bootlegging routes, speakeasies, bookmaking, politicians, police departments, judges, entire suburbs. And unlike Rothstein, Capone enjoyed fame. That became his weakness. The flashy suits, the newspapers, the interviews, the celebrity. America turned him into a myth while the government slowly turned him into a target. Then came the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. 70 rounds. Bodies against a wall. Fake cops. National outrage. And suddenly, Capone became public enemy number one. 3 months later, he arrives in Atlantic City. Because behind closed doors, the biggest gangsters in America were trying to figure out how to survive the heat that massacre created. The Atlantic City Conference. May 1929. The Ritz-Carlton, the Ambassador Hotel, luxury suites overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. And inside, the most powerful criminals in America. Capone, Luciano-Lansky, Costello, Torrio, Dutch Schultz, Aber Bernstein, and more. The real meeting behind Boardwalk Empire. Officially, a business conference. Unofficially, a criminal summit to reorganize organized crime itself. They discussed territories, distribution, political pressure, federal investigations, and most importantly, how to modernize the underworld. Because the old street gang model wasn't sustainable anymore. Too much violence, too much attention, too much chaos. The future would belong to organizations, structures, rules, boards, systems. This wasn't just organized crime anymore. This was organized management. And sitting at the center of it all was Nucky Johnson, the political boss who gave them safe harbor while the rest of America panicked. Luciano and Lansky build the future. Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky took Rothstein's blueprint and industrialized it. Luciano reorganized the mafia into the 5 families, then created the Commission, a board of directors for organized crime. No more endless wars. No more constant blood feuds. Disputes got negotiated. Territories got respected. Violence became business strategy instead of emotional chaos. Meanwhile, Lansky handled the financial architecture. Swiss accounts. Offshore laundering. Casinos. Shell companies. The man practically invented modern criminal finance. And together, they created something terrifyingly durable. Not a gang. An institution. Why Prohibition failed. The 18th Amendment was supposed to save America. Instead, it accidentally funded the mob. That's the irony. The government created the largest black market opportunity in modern American history. And the smartest criminals rushed in to fill it. The public wanted alcohol. The government banned alcohol. The mob delivered alcohol. Simple math. By the late 1920s, crime skyrocketed. Corruption exploded. The courts got overwhelmed. Police departments got bought. And entire cities quietly stopped enforcing the law because enforcing it became impossible. That's what Boardwalk Empire understood better than almost any crime drama ever made. The line between government and organized crime got blurry, sometimes invisible. The fall. Every empire ends. The stock market crashed in 1929. The Great Depression hit Atlantic City hard. Tourism dropped. Money dried up. Then in 1933, Prohibition ended. and suddenly bootlegging collapsed overnight. You didn't need gangsters for whiskey anymore. You just went to a bar. The machine weakened. Then came federal investigations, newspaper expose, IRS agents. That's another funny thing about organized crime. The government rarely beats these guys with bullets. It beats them with accountants. Nucky Johnson got convicted of tax evasion. So did Capone. Paperwork killed empires that gunfire couldn't touch. The end of the Boardwalk Empire. Nucky went to prison in 1941. Served 4 years. Returned to Atlantic City a diminished man. Worked as an oil salesman. Imagine that. The king of the boardwalk selling oil. Capone died in Florida, mentally destroyed by neurosyphilis. Luciano died in exile in Italy. Lansky survived the longest. Quiet. Hidden. Careful to the very end. And Atlantic City itself. The great hotels disappeared. The old machine collapsed. The boardwalk changed. But the systems those men built, those survived. The commission survived. The financial structures survived. The corruption models survived. Because Prohibition didn't destroy organized crime. It upgraded it. The real legacy of Boardwalk Empire. Boardwalk Empire worked because underneath all the drama, the show understood the truth. This wasn't just a story about gangsters. It was a story about America. About ambition. About capitalism. About politics. About corruption. About what happens when enormous opportunity collides with weak institutions and human appetite. These men weren't superheroes. They weren't romantic anti-heroes either. They were complicated. Brilliant. Corrupt. Strategic. Violent. And unbelievably human. That's what makes them fascinating. The ocean never cared. The boardwalk is quieter now. The great hotels are mostly gone. The suites where Nucky Johnson held court disappeared decades ago. But the ocean is still there. The same ocean the rum-running ships floated on. The same cold Atlantic water crashing against the shore, while gangsters built empires in hotel rooms lit by jazz clubs and cigar smoke. These men thought they owned the night. Thought they owned the city. Thought they owned history itself. Reality eventually collected the debt from all of them. Because reality always collects. Sometimes with bullets. Sometimes with taxes. Sometimes with prison bars. And sometimes with time. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe right now. Leave a comment telling me which figure from the Prohibition era you want covered next. Bugsy Siegel, Frank Costello, Dutch Schultz, the Chicago Outfit, the Purple Gang. Because around here, we don't do surface-level history. We go all the way down. And if you made it all the way to the end of this documentary, seriously, Thank you. This kind of storytelling doesn't survive without people willing to sit down for a few hours and really listen. The replay gang. The late-night listeners. The people putting this on while the world sleeps. You keep this channel alive. And remember something. These men built empires that looked permanent. Every single one of those empires vanished eventually. The ocean stayed. The boardwalk changed. History moved on. And somewhere out there at night, if the wind hits the shore just right, you can almost hear Nucky Johnson laughing. Enoch L. Johnson. The real-life inspiration for Nucky Thompson from Boardwalk Empire. Ran Atlantic City like it was his personal casino floor. Never needed to scream, wave a gun, or throw a punch. He just owned everybody's paycheck. Imagine if corruption wore a tuxedo and handed out Christmas turkeys. Arnold Rothstein. The brain of the American underworld. Fixed gambling, financed bootlegging, allegedly fixed the 1919 World Series, and mentored half the mob like some evil Wall Street professor. Looked like a banker. Thought like a calculator. Died because he wouldn't pay a gambling debt. Irony's a beautiful thing. Al Capone. America's first celebrity gangster. Built a criminal empire worth millions and somehow still thought tax evasion was a good retirement plan. Loud suits, louder headlines, and enough ego to power Chicago for a decade. Got taken down not by Tommy guns, but accountants. Somewhere the IRS still celebrates that one. Lansky. The accountant of the apocalypse. Quiet, tiny, terrifyingly smart. Laundered money so well the federal government spent decades chasing ghosts and spreadsheets. Looked like somebody's grandfather at the deli. Meanwhile, he's allegedly moving millions through offshore accounts before most people knew what offshore meant. Benjamin Siegel. Movie star face. Absolute lunatic energy. Helped build Las Vegas and also helped prove that being handsome does not automatically mean emotionally stable. Could charm a room in 5 minutes and start a war in 6. Frank Costello. Known as the Prime Minister of the Underworld, which honestly sounds less like a mob title and more like a guy who files taxes for Dracula. Charles Luciano. The guy who turned organized crime into organized business. Took the old-school mafia structure, threw it in the trash, and built the commission like a criminal board of directors. Basically invented corporate crime management before half of corporate America figured out email.
Let me ask you something. You sitting there watching all these tough guys, bootleggers, racketeers, killers, and you're drinking what? Water? What are we doing here? Introducing Bootlegger's Blend. The only drink that tastes like it was smuggled across 3 state lines, hidden in a coffin, and delivered by a guy named Frankie Two Fingers. This ain't your grandma's iced tea. This is bold, illegal feeling, and strong enough to make you question your life choices. You ever wonder what guys like Wallace, Higgins, Saltus, Nerari were really drinking? It wasn't top shelf. It was bootlegger's blend. One sip, and suddenly, you trust nobody. You start talking in whispers, and you think every car outside is following you. Side effects may include paranoia, bad decisions, and calling people kid for no reason. And listen, if a guy hands you a glass and says, "Don't ask what's in it, just drink," bootlegger's blend. If it burns, it's probably working. Available nowhere legally.
So this is it, I say goodbye to this chapter of my ever-changing life. And there's mistakes, the path is long, and I'm sure I'll answer for them when I'm gone. So when the day comes and the sun won't touch my face, tell the ones who cared enough that I finally left this place that's been so cold. Look in my face, all the stories it will tell I can't erase. The road is long, just one more song, a little something to remind you when I'm gone, when I'm gone. The road to hell along the way is paved with good intentions, so they say, and some believe that no good deed goes unpunished in the end, or so it seems. So when the day comes and the sun won't touch my face, tell the ones who care enough that I finally left this place that's been so cold. Look in my face, all the stories it will tell I can't erase. The road is long, just one more song, a little something to remind you when I'm gone, when I'm gone. So this is it, I say goodbye to this chapter of my ever-changing life. And there's mistakes, the path was long, and I'm sure I'll answer for them when I'm gone, when I'm gone.